Hi and welcome to the show. I'm Baz the Bard, and this is a top 8 match from the pre-release at Living Realms in Castleford. Only 3 stores in the UK managed to have one on the official pre-release weekend. So the guys in the top cut have had a draft. Hopefully you've seen the video that me and James Ashall did prior to this one, where we go through the draft looking over the shoulder of Rob Catton. Yeah, it was very kind of him to let me record over his shoulder to see how his draft went. Would you have picked the same cards he did? So he opens up with a Soaring Strike. It's blocked out by James, and then he follows up with a Searing Ember Blade for 3. So Searing Ember Blade, if it is on Chain Link 2 or higher, it gets go again. So you're going to see this pattern a lot with Fi. Searing Ember Blade is either going to be Attack Link 2 or it's going to come in on Chain Link 3. So James blocks that out again with a full block. So Fi's ability, if he spends 3 credits, he can go into the graveyard and pick out a Phoenix Flame. It gets 1 less for every chain it is, so that cost him 1 there. So Rob did no damage. It's turn 1. We've all been there. You're slinging cards at people and they completely block out. There's no real setup for Fi. You know, he's just going to basically attack through it. You're playing Blitz, so it's more aggressive. We're yet to see what the CC version's like. Has he got any setup cards? I don't know. So James comes in. He's got the tempo because he's the second player. So he's come in with a Dust Outlaw. It's a red, so it's coming in for 4. Rob has got a lot of 2 blocks. So it seems if you've got Draconic Ninja cards, they primarily block for 2. If you go for Draconic cards, they kind of block for 3. So the Draconic cards kind of work into more to help Dromai out. So she's got a lot more 3 blocks, and Fi has a lot more 2 blocks. You'll see from the generics in the packs that they tend to block for 2. James Thorgood, he was top in Swiss. He played Icelander in the Swiss, so yeah, he did really good. There was, but the top 8 consisted of 6 Fi and 2 Icelander. The highest Dromais were 10th and 11th. So Rob's blocked for 2 there with a Rebellious Rush. So what we've seen through general play through the weekend, that with the 3 card hand from Fi, he's generally going to be doing 11 power through his turn. So he can still generate a fair bit with a few cards. So like I've said before, going to see this a lot. Searing Ember Blade, 2nd attack on the chain, comes in for 3 power and go again because it's on Chain Link 2 or higher. So Mountain Anger comes in for 3. It's got go again. If James had a card in his hand, he could banish it if it cost 2 or 1 or less. So he used Fi's ability to grab that Phoenix Flame from the graveyard, but he decided to put it into Arsenal. We'll see how that turns out. So Rob, Scar for a Scar, we've all seen this. Coming in for 4, blocker 2, Rob's on less health, so it gains go again. So fantastic card. It's always been a favourite with people, and I don't see any difference with it now. It's whether or not in draft you want to pick up the yellows and the blues. Yellows don't tend to be that popular really in the draft itself that we saw at the weekend. It was basically people were picking reds. You know, on the first cycles, and as it went round, people were then going on to blues. So primarily blues and reds. Yellows are kind of like milling about as the last picks. But some still have some good attacks. Some are still good enablers, like we've seen that Mountain Anger. If you can get that off, it can give you extra power to follow in attacks if you've got cards left. So James blocks for 3 there. So we're probably going to see Searing Ember Blade. There we go. So Searing Ember Blade for 3. It's got to go again because it's on Chain Link 2 or higher. Okay, so James blocks 2, takes 1 damage. So James is on 18, Rob's on 14. It's James's go. So he's got the Phoenix Flame in Arsenal. So maybe he didn't draft that many cards where he can grab grab the Phoenix Flames easily, but Fi certainly can, that's for sure. So a yellow Ronin Renegade coming in for 2. Yeah, there were 4 Fis drafted. There were 2 Icelanders and 2 Drome Eyes. I don't know, you know, with the seat pattern for where James was, where everybody was in relation to him drawing Fi. That's why he might have a few yellows. Rob's block with Scar for a Scar comes full block. This is the thing, sort of like if you've got yellows and blues for draconic attacks, they're generally 1s and 2s, so they will block each other out. So you really have to string your attacks together to you know, to get that chip damage through. Searing Ember Blade. 3 would go again because it's Chain Link 2 or higher. He's got 1 floating. So if he did have a Phoenix Flame, he could go into his graveyard with Fi's ability. We know that the Phoenix Flame is in his arsenal. So it's whether or not he wants to play it out after this. It certainly makes sense just to chip through the damage because Fi's going to be triggering every turn. So Rob's blocked for 1. James can increase the power of that Phoenix Flame by using his equipment Heatwave. That's an arm equipment. He can use that as an instant, so he can come in with 1 with a Phoenix Flame and then pop Heatwave to do that extra bit of damage. So that's quite a nice little finisher. So we've got Stoke the Flames from Rob. So this is a nice little card. It's a red, it's a common, it only comes in red though, but if he hits, he can go into his graveyard and he can get a Phoenix Flame. So what you might find is if this hits, Rob will get his Phoenix Flame, chuck his Phoenix Flame in and then break the chain, send it to the graveyard, come in with another attack, and then he could potentially pay with Fire's ability to get that Phoenix Flame back out and do a double strike. Rob is only running 1 Phoenix Flame in his deck. I certainly found that through the limited process through the Swiss, that if you, yes, you can put 3 Phoenix Flames in your deck, but when you draw them, they do not block. So yeah, be careful with how many Phoenix Flames you're actually putting in. In 1 turn I drew 2 Phoenix Flames, and when Fire's attacking you with a full grip and you've got 2 cards that don't block, you're in trouble. If this hits as well, basically he's got go again. So James's best option is just to block this out. Don't let this hit. The only attack reaction that I've seen is Rapid Reflex, which is kind of like just like Razor Reflex. It's Rainbow. It's like 1, 2, and 3 for the cost of 1. Sorry. So James blocks that out. Doesn't allow Rob to get go again. Doesn't allow Rob to get that Phoenix Flame. So he's coming in with a Soaring Strike red. It's coming in for 4. If it hits, he can banish a card from his hand that's on less chain links, that costs less chain links than he has. So it could banish a 0 cost card, and then he could play it from the banish zone. You find with Fire, you really have to get those draconic chain links running to enable all your cards like Soaring Strikes, Mounted Angers, Rising Resentments. They all trigger off a draconic chain. Okay, so Rob just takes the 4, goes down to 9. 18 to 9. So you can see he's got a lava burst there, so that's what he comes down with. So normally you would see this coming in on chain link 4 because of rupture, so you get the extra damage, so it would come in for 5. But Rob's elected to come in for only 2. It hasn't got go again, but he has got tide flippers there, which he does use. So tide flippers, if it's got a base of 2 or less, he can give it go again. So that's what he does. Comes in with a Cinder Skin Devotion, which is coming in for 4. If it's on Draconic chain link 2 or greater, it gets go again. So now his turn, which didn't look that great, is certainly increased. James has now got to wonder what he's got left to play. He's already taken 2 damage, and now Rob's on attack with 3 with go again. So James box for 2. Certainly seems like James has got more Draconic Ninjas, so cards which are only been blocking for 2. So Searing Emberblade, so cost 2, comes in for 3. He hasn't blocked it, so now we've got a Phi. This costs nothing to get this Phoenix Flame out, so coming in for 1 with go again, takes the 1. Rob then gets a Tome of Firebrand out, so because it's on Draconic 4 or more on the chain links, he gets to draw 2 cards, comes in with a Running Renegade for 3. It's got go again, so he can play that other card that's in his hand. No blocks, so he's down to 7. So it did look pretty unhealthy for Rob there, but he certainly got the health deficit back. But James has got 3 cards still, so he can still put out a lot of damage. Phi only needs 3 cards, and he can put out 11 power with those 3. So another yellow Running Renegade coming in for 2. So Rob could easily block this out. So, but he decides not to. Goes down to 7. Searing Emberblade coming in for 3. It's on that Draconic 2 chain link, so gets go again. No block from Rob, so he goes down to 4. So we're going to see that Phoenix Flame come out. There we go. So Phoenix Flame coming in for 1. So Rob's just checking to see if there's a Phoenix Flame in James's bin, but I think James is only playing with 1 as well. Like I said, they do not block, so you don't want many in your deck. If you can recycle that 1 multiple times, you know what I mean, you're chipping 1 damage a time. So Rob doesn't block it. So James uses that instant on Heatwave, takes an extra bit of damage, and then follows up with a Dust Runner Outlaw for lethal. So Rob's going to have to chuck 1 card at least, and he'll go down to 1, or he'll chuck 2 cards at it. So it's going to block for 3, it's going to go down to 1. So squeaky bum time when you're on 1 health. So he's still got 4 cards though. So he's coming in for Rising Resentment, it's coming in for 3. If he's got a 0 cost card in his hand, he could banish it, and then it would cost him 1 less, but then what's the point? It's already costing nothing anyway. But the good thing is he's got to go again. Rob's certainly haven't taken his time of going through his cards, seeing what best line it is. We don't know what's in his arsenal. But there we go. Searing Emberblade coming in for 3 with go again. James doesn't know what he's got. He can still activate Phi to get that Phoenix Flame from the graveyard. So that's 1. So he's representing 4 at the minute. Plus he's got 2 cards. we saw in some games that both Fies got down to 1 health each, and it was very much, you know, they were just blocking out as much as they could. Some of the games that had 1 life left, you know, you wouldn't have thought necessarily that they were going to survive into the next game, but they dragged it out. The quells really do help. Helios Mitre is especially good for Dromai in that. So Mountain Anger coming in for 3 with Go Again. It's one of the few yellow cards that Rob's got. So he will go down to 1, and we know that Fi can still activate and get that Phoenix Flame out. So he does need to be careful. So he fully blocks that out. Fi activates, and then Phoenix Flame comes in for 1. So James is going to take that. 3 plays 1. James has only got 1 card though. So a lot of the 0 cost cards are only going to come in for 2. 3 maybe. So that could either be 1 or 2 cards from hand. James is just having a check to see what's played. He can't get a Phoenix Flame out, that's for sure. He's not really going to attack with Searing Emberblade because he's not going to give him Go Again. It's always one of the hardest things to do in Fab when you've got 1 card left and you're staring at the barrel on low life. What do? Do you chuck that card in? If it doesn't attack for much, sometimes the best thing to do is Arsenal, draw up. You don't know if your opponent's got a duff draw, especially if it's draft, and he'll come back with a better hand next time. Okay, so Dust Runner Outlaw coming in for 4 Go Again. So 2 cards go in there, fully blocked out. Mountain Anger for 4, it's got Go Again. If Rob decides to banish a card, it's got a cost 1 or less. It can go into your banish zone, then it can come out again with +1 power. So Rob's gonna, oh no, he's looking for a quell card which he doesn't have. So he blocks out 3, takes 1, down to 2. Rob's got, so he's pitching it, so this is probably going to be Searing Emberblade for 3. So he's going to go down to 1. Fies with his Phoenix Flame, and Rob wins it. Well done, Rob. So, yeah, that was a very tough game. Loads of chain attacks. That was brilliant. Well done, Rob.